analyst, Professor Dirk Kotze, and he joins us now via our video link for more on this discussion. Professor, thank you so much for your time this evening here on SABC News. Now, the ANC, particularly in KwaZulu-Natal and in Gauteng, are on a path of renewal. Let's firstly start off there and get your thoughts when it comes to the celebrations taking place in these two provinces just before that all-important meeting tomorrow.
Yes, I think this is very much in the context of the meetings, several meetings that the ANC's National Executive Committee and National Working Committee and the Courtland, all of them had, about these two relatively problematic provinces, Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal, and how to turn this around because next year will be the local government elections. And it is absolutely important for the ANC to perform much better at the local government level next year in order to address this public perception that has developed that the ANC is on the way down and cannot turn it around. President Ramaphosa's renewal agenda or program is the antidote for that, is the way in order to arrest it, to keep it, to turn it around. But so far, and especially with this election, it didn't work. So I think for the ANC, and that is why we see that there is such a delay in terms of taking very specific decisions or actions, is that they don't know necessarily what this renewal actually entails and what will be effective. Because essentially they will have to start by improving the quality of governance. That is what the public opinion is saying in terms of public perceptions and surveys and so on, is that many of the ANC supporters left the ANC because they are upset with the quality of services. So it's not about the ANC per se, the internal dynamics of the ANC. It's more about how the ANC functions as government. And that distinguishes it from other political parties who are not parties of government, that the focus is more on the parties than their policies. But in the case of the ANC, it's not only about policies, but actually what they do and their performance as government. And that will be the critical factor in order to turn it around.
And Professor, I mean, the ANC has never found itself in this position, particularly in these two provinces where it obtained such low results during last year's election. And now it holds this NWC meeting tomorrow and tries to find a way forward to reconfigure, these two provinces. And how does it do that? What options are available for the ANC, particularly in a terrain it's never navigated before?
I think what they have in mind, what they have already sort of stated to a large extent in public, is that first of all, it is about leadership, and your reports also focus now quite a lot on that. But the provincial executive committees, to what extent they will continue, what will be the input that comes now from the national level, from the National Executive Committee, and senior persons within the ANC that can support these different two provinces. And I think that is the way in which this notion of reconfiguration is understood so far by the ANC. But then at the same time, it is also about how to improve the quality of the internal structures of the ANC, starting with their branches. The fact that many branches are dormant, they are not active, they don't meet often, or that the branches have become so politicized in terms of the internal politics of the ANC that they are, to a large extent, dysfunctional. They've already made some changes with their membership. Most of it is now online, and the human factor has been reduced to some extent. But these are all aspects of a type of a reform of the ANC that's hopefully can make a difference. But as I said in the beginning, the ultimate factor is, will people trust the ANC? Will they see the ANC and the leadership and the officials of the ANC as persons who act ethically and not in a corrupt way anymore? And that they can trust them so that they can give them the vote for the future as a government of the future. So in that sense, it's actually an exceptionally difficult task for the ANC.
And how
I can't really think of any governing party anywhere in the world that were very successful when they have been in a position like this.
All right, Professor. And how important is this particular reconfiguration for the ANC, especially at a time where the country is heading towards the local government elections? And I mean, the local government elections were actually the first test for the ANC, and that's where they were punished at the polls and found itself in many coalitions, throughout various municipalities in the country.
Yes, if that reconfiguration means that there's going to be an influx of other senior ANC figures to assist the provincial executives of the two provinces and maybe even some other provinces, I don't think that is going to make a big difference. As I said and explained now, it's not about necessarily the internal functioning of the ANC. The Gauteng leadership, for example, said in some of their pronouncements now very likely that they did their best. They couldn't do better in terms of producing the results for last year's provincial election. So the way it can make a difference, and that is where other parties are becoming so much involved in trying to be part of governments, whether it is at local level or provincial level or now even national level, is that when they show what they can achieve as a government, what is their track record, what is the possible results that they can produce. And that is where the ANC will have to make a change. And unfortunately, they don't have much time in order to do that and to change that public perception of what is the effectiveness of the ANC, that they can really act as an effective government and make a change in the quality of lives and the quality of the economy and many other aspects of what the government is responsible for.
And Professor, I mean, going back to this issue around reconfiguration, would you think, or do you think rather, that the decision to reconfigure Gauteng and KZN, was the best option for the ANC, other than completely disbanding these two provinces?
Well, it is effectively a compromise between, on the one hand, don't do anything, and on the other hand, dissolve the executive committee. I think what the ANC national leadership is concerned about, that if you dissolve the national leadership, then you create persons who are disgruntled, who are angry, who feel that they have lost, that the national leadership didn't give them enough support, abandoned them, and therefore they become effectively actually opponents of the national leadership of the ANC. And I think this is what President Ramaphosa and others try to avoid. So they are in a really very difficult situation where the options for the ANC are very few. And as I try to emphasize it, the main option that they really do have is that, especially at local government level, but also at national level and provincial level, that they start to improve the quality of what they are doing so that the public can see. Take, for example, the fact that we didn't have load shedding except now for one day. It made a huge impact on the public perceptions and the public sentiment and the public feeling and the optimism that exists also amongst the business sectors about it. So if there's some positive results that the ANC can demonstrate in other areas also, then it can have ultimately an accumulated effect on how people see them and maybe reconsider their position and support the ANC again.
Professor, thank you so much for your time and for that insight. That is a political analyst, Professor Dirk Kotze, there speaking to us about the reconfiguration of these two provinces and that all-important meeting, the NWC meeting, National Working Committee of the ANC, taking place tomorrow to discuss a way forward for these two provinces. All right.